Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things and welcome to another video, and today I'm going to be doing my TBR for the Irish Readathon. So the Irish Readathon is a month-long readathon that takes place in March, where basically the idea is to read Irish literature during March. It's hosted by Leanne Rose, Elaine Howlin and Aoife from Fred Weasley Died Laughing. So I have sort of like half taken part in the past. I think last year I read like one Irish book, but this year I would like to properly take part and like encourage myself to read a bit more Irish literature during the month of March. It's not going to be the only thing that I read during the month of March by any means, and I'm also not going to really do any of the challenges, or I'm not going to like specifically do any of the challenges, though I suppose some of the things I read might meet some of them. But I thought what I would do is just try and read some Irish literature during March, some books that I've been meaning to read for a while that happen to be on my shelves already or that I wanted to get out of the library. So without any further ado, I will tell you about some of the literature by Irish authors that I am planning to pick up in March. So firstly, I want to read some more Oscar Wilde plays. I love Oscar Wilde a lot. He was a brilliant Victorian Irish writer who I love a lot. So I've read quite a lot of his plays, but there are two of his plays that I have not read, which are Salome and A Florentine Tragedy. I don't know very much about these two. I have a feeling they're less comedic than his other four plays that I have read, but we will see. I love Oscar Wilde's style of writing so much, and he writes such brilliant plays, so I'm very excited to read them. If I have time, I might also reread another play or two from this. So in Victober, I reread A Woman of No Importance and The Importance of Being Earnest, so I don't feel like I need to read them again. But Lady Windermere's Fan and An Ideal Husband I haven't read for quite a while. I've only read both of them once, and in fact I read them when I was 18 years old and had chickenpox and I was quite ill. So like I remember Lady Windermere's Fan a bit, but I have no recollection at all of An Ideal Husband because I was quite ill when I read them. So I might try and reread An Ideal Husband at least, and possibly Lady Windermere's Fan. Oscar Wilde plays are quite short, and in general plays don't take a very long time to read. Like I can read a play in like an hour and a half, so I might read all four of those plays in March, but we shall see. Another Irish classic I would like to try and get to in March is Dubliners by James Joyce. I've been meaning to read this book for a very long time. For about 10 years. I have a vague recollection of being in school and another class was studying this, but I wasn't, and I thought I should read that. And then 10 years later, I still haven't. This is a collection of short stories from 1914 set in Dublin. I don't know much more about it than that. I don't know how I'm going to feel about James Joyce. In general, like modernism and stream of consciousness writing is not my favourite thing. I don't know if all of his writing is stream of consciousness. I don't know that much about the style of this, but I know some of his work is. The only thing I've ever read by James Joyce is 2 pages of Finnegan's Wake, and I never wanted to read any more of Finnegan's Wake than that, but I do gather Finnegan's Wake is his most experimental, weirdest book, so I feel like this is going to be an easier starting point. It's also quite short, it's only about 200 pages, so I think I should be able to get through this, and I will see how I feel. Moving on from the classics, there are 2 Irish historical fiction novels that I'm hoping to get to in March. One of these is Frog Music by Emma Donoghue. Emma Donoghue was born in Ireland and now lives in Canada, and she is an amazing writer. I've read 2 of her books, Room and The Wonder, which are both very, very different, but both very amazing. The Wonder was my favourite book of last year. I loved it so much, and I'm so excited to read more by her, and especially more of her historical fiction. This is Frog Music. It is set in San Francisco in 1876. I don't need to know anything more, I'm already incredibly excited. Hopefully I will be buddy reading this with Marissa from Blatantly Bookish, and I'm really, really looking forward to this. She's such an amazing writer, and I love The Wonder so much that I feel like maybe none of the rest of her books will ever beat it because it was so amazing, but I'm also so excited to read more by her. Then I also have The Secret Scripture by Sebastian Barry. I've owned this for a really long time. Actually, I've just realised that I said in my 2020 goals video that I had picked 6 books that had been in my TBR the longest, which I was going to make sure I read this year, but I actually think this one might have been on my TBR for longer than some of them. So it's been on my shelves for a really long time. Bizarrely, I've read 2 other books by Sebastian Barry, which I have not owned for as long as this. Days Without End, which is the first book I read by him and was absolutely amazing, and also A Long, Long Way, which was good, but I didn't love as much as Days Without End. And this, I believe, focuses on a woman who's 100 years old living in a psychiatric hospital, and what happens when someone at the hospital begins to investigate her past and her life and then finds out lots of things about her life. I realised I said it was historical. I'm not sure it is actually all historical. I think I just assumed that because the other 2 books by him I've read are, but I think it's going to be semi-historical and maybe like flashback between the present and the past. I don't know. I'm very curious. I have really loved the other 2 books by him that I've read, especially Days Without End, which I just loved so much. So I'm very excited to read more by him. And yeah, this has been on my shelf for too long, so I'm looking forward to it. Then finally, there are a couple of Irish women's fiction books that I would like to get to in March. I've been meaning for a really long time to read some Marian Keyes. I've got out of my library on audiobook The Brightest Star in the Sky. I don't have very many specific reasons for picking this as my first Marian Keyes, except that it was the only one my library had on audiobook, and I tried very hard to put on reserve all of the Marian Keyes books they had in physical copies, and none of them were available, so I will listen to this instead. I think this is all set around people who live in the same street, and I don't know much more than that about it, but that's all I need to know for now. Marian Keyes is just an author I've been meaning to read for a long time. She's a very successful women's fiction writer, and I always hear great things about her, so I'm looking forward to that. Then I also have this is Secrets of a Happy Marriage by Kathy Kelly, and this I think is about a slightly complicated family, including a woman and her new stepdaughter and a cousin of the family, and it kind of follows their relationships and dynamics around a particular party. That's all I really know, but I've heard great things about Kathy Kelly, and this sounded interesting, so I'm hoping to get to this in March. And then finally, I did just want to mention this is Evening Class by Maeve Binchy. I'm actually reading this at the moment. I might have finished it by the time March starts, in which case I will not count this for the Irish Readathon. Basically, I got this out of the library in February. I forgot that Maeve Binchy was Irish, otherwise I would have saved it for March, but I didn't realise until I was like a few pages in, and then I was really enjoying it, so I just carried on reading it. So I'm about halfway through now and I'm really enjoying it, so I might have finished this by the time the Irish Readathon comes around. If not, then I will add this onto my TBR for that. Loving this so far. It's about all of these different characters who are drawn together by an evening class teaching Italian, but it's just really, really good fun, and yeah, I'm loving her writing a lot. And yeah, those are the books that I would like to pick up for the Irish Readathon. Do let me know down in the comments if you're participating and what you're planning on reading. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.